Hey, how's it going, YouTube? How y'all doing today? Oh man, as I was walking around here this morning giving these animals feed, I started realizing that my animals, their manure is starting to clump up just a little bit. I saw a couple of patches of clumped up manure, but I think that what's happening right now is, okay, so I let these animals out front for an hour a day to go graze that grass because I need to put some forage in them. And I do have a little bit of grass out front. I mean, I got about a third of a flush of grass. When I planted this grass originally, I had planted it at 70 pounds an acre. I planted it at 70 pounds an acre, and the leaves were about 2 to 2.5 inches wide. And that plant was also about 4 feet tall when I grazed it for the first time. Right now, the planting density, I would estimate, is about 50 to 60. The leaf width is about 1.75 inches. Plant height is about 2 feet tall. So there's about a third of the biomass that I had originally growing out there, but I do have some grass. And so yep, but I mean, it's almost well, okay, so when I'm looking to grow a full flush of grass, right, I'm looking for 4 inches of water. This grass out front right now only got about 1.33 inches, and so it only grew about a third of what it did on 4 inches of water, which is I guess just how things work. It just is what it is, because if there's a third of the amount of water, the plant's only going to grow a third as much. And so these animals, I'm starting to realize that a couple of their manure patties are starting to clump up. A majority of the manure patties still look okay. But what I'm guessing is happening is that these animals, when I let them out front, I got a lot of dead grass up there too. A lot of just dried up winter forage. The grass that I had planted in the winter time, it's just dried up and it's just there. It's gone to seed and it's dried up. And the cows are grabbing at that. They're eating it. And it's causing them to just clump up their manure just a little bit. Here's another manure patty that's clumping up a little bit. And so this feed that I got, it's a 12% protein. And some of these calves are still small. And so, yep, you know, when I look at feed, usually, okay, so there are times when I got some real hot grass growing back here, and I would like to put some more roughage in their gut, but at times like this, I would like to run them on a 14% protein feed, but this feed is 12% protein. And so, yep, next time, well, I'll plan better in the future. You know, in the future, I'll have a better plan set up for these animals' feed. But this is the first time that I've noticed it. And I started grazing these cattle on the front pasture for an hour a day yesterday. And this animal right here, these are two of the animals that are going to market. But if you look at his rear end right here, he's got a little bit of a like a bump right here around his butt. And this is also a good sign. This right here, this is fat. This is also a good sign that this animal right here, he getting to the point where he a good bit fat. Because this bump right here around their butt, this will get bigger. This right here, this will get bigger as they get fatter. And so this animal, he's just about smooth. I don't see any ribs on him. He's got a bump on his butt right there. And when I push him right here, when I push up against him, I can feel the fat under him. I can feel the fat. And so this animal right here, this animal right here, this is what I would like my animals to look like when I take him to market. He's about a 6 body conditioning, and I would say he's about a 7 weight animal, somewhere around 700 pounds. And so if I can get him to a 6 body conditioning at a 7 weight, they're good to go. And he's about maybe a year old. Let me see, this animal right here, he's just a little bit shorter, just about 1 inch shorter than White Girl. Right next to him, this heifer right here, her name is White Girl, and this is Big 17. He's just about 1 inch shorter than she is, and he comes right up to about to where my liver's at. If you know where your liver's at, if you've ever been hit in the liver, you'll know where it's at for the rest of your life. It's like right under your rib cage to the left a little bit. but he's about right where my liver's at. And so he's a little bit shorter than white girl right next to him, and he's a pretty fat little calf. You see this animal? But when these animals, when it's about when they're about getting ready for market, you know, when it's about time to get them ready for market, you know, I can't really put much conditioning on them in a week or in a month. You know, this is all something that's got to be started you know, 6-7 months ago. I got to put them on a plan. Okay, and 6, you know, I brought in some thin calves. Oh man, yeah, these two, they don't like each other right here. This is a bison and little guy, but they always squaring up on each other right here, these two right here. But I think it's because little guy right here, little guy is he's very territorial of his space. He don't like animals in his space. And bison, he likes pushing animals out the way because he's got these horns on the side of his head, and so he'll push animals out the way. And when he tries to push little guy will push him back. Little guy's a lot smaller than he is, but little guy, he's always been like that. He's always pushed the big bulls around, the big ones around. This is a small little guy, he just pushes him out the way. And so yep, they always pushing on each other. But bison's going to be going to market this weekend too. He's going to market this weekend, and so I'm sure little guy will miss having him around. And yep, but these animals, they about good to go, you know, man. Okay, so these animals, you know, most of their weight's been put on with grass. You know, I've had these animals for about 10 months. And these animals, for about 9 months out of the 10 months that they've been here, they've been on fresh grass. They're practically 90% of the time they've been here, they've been on fresh grass. And you know, if I had rain coming in, if I had rain, I would have them on more grass. But I mean, it ain't rained in about a month. I've got less than an inch of rain in a month. So yep. You know, grass is the cheapest, most cost-efficient feed that I can ever grow or ever have on these cattle. I always say, you know, someone who's looking to run cattle, it's better to learn how to grow grass first. Because if you learn how to work cattle, but you don't know how to grow grass, it's real hard to run cattle profitably. I mean, you can do things like be a lot buyer, you know, be someone who puts animals together for somebody else, or you can go and, you know, you can like work a sale barn or something like that. But in terms of actually running cattle, like putting cattle together and running them, the only thing you can really do is either one, work a feed yard, or two, it's going to be real hard on you. I mean, it's going to cost you a lot of money. If you don't know how to grow grass, it's going to be extremely difficult to raise cattle profitably. You know, because okay, here's the thing about the grass, right? If I put $50 an acre, if I invest $50 an acre per month on about 10 acres, so that's about $500 a month, $500 to $600 a month. For $500 to $600 a month, when I get 4 inches of rain a month, usually 4 inches of rain a month, it ain't too out of the ordinary. You know, there are plenty of months where I get 4 inches of rain, and so if I get 4 inches of rain a month, I can grow enough grass to feed about 10 to 15 of these little dingle donger calves. If they're this size right here, I can feed about 10 to 15 of them per acre. So on this 10 acre grass, on 10 acres of grass, I can raise about 100 to 150 calves. And I can raise them to about a 5 weight. So I can raise them until they're probably about this big right here. And so I can raise about 100 to 150 calves on this piece of land, on 10 acres. But if I don't know how to grow grass and I have to put them on feed, it turns into a lot of I mean, it's a lot of money, and it's a lot of effort. You know, me putting these animals on feed like this, you know, when I grow grass, right? When I grow grass, the grass grows itself, and the cattle will walk out there and eat it. But if I put them on feed, I need to shovel this feed and then bring it out here to them twice a day. And you know, and I need to put about 500 pounds of feed in front of them, and that's going to cost me about $2,000 a month. You know, because I get my tax cuts on them and everything. And so it's going to cost me about $2,000 a month to feed these animals like this, where as in if I was feeding grass, I can feed a lot more animals and I can feed them for a lot less money. And these cattle will get to eat as much as they want. I mean, it will literally be an unlimited supply of grass. 10 to 15 little dingle donger calves like this on 10 acres per acre, it ain't that, there will be more grass than they could possibly eat. I mean, if I put 100 three-weight calves on here, 150 three-weight calves on here, and I got 4 inches of rain a month for 3 months straight, these cattle would have an unlimited amount of grass. They would be able to eat 24/7. But if I put them on feed, I got to come out here twice a day, every day, and shovel feed in front of them. And the thing about the tax benefits, I know I say tax benefits, but this is how you get the tax benefits, okay? Okay, so if I work a job, right? Let's say I work a job, and that job, it pays me $3,000 a month. So I make about let's say I make $40,000 a year, right? I make $40,000 a year. That means I make about like $3,200 a month, right? If I make $3,200 a month and the person who's employed me pulls a portion of my paycheck into a separate account to pay income taxes and all the other taxes, there's like Social Security tax and all that. The income tax portion of the account that I have put away will be refunded back to me if I deduct my investments. And so let's say I go and I get a job, right, and they pull $700 into a separate account. That's $8,400 a year. And about out of that 8,400, about like, let's say about 4,000 is 4,500, 5,000 of it is income tax. Well, if I got $40,000 income and I'm paying $8,000 in taxes, and $5,000 of that is income tax, I can get the $5,000 back by deducting my investments on my income. And that's how I got my tax money back. That's how I got my another reason why I got a portion of my tax, why I got about $8,000 back this year, is because I got my property tax money too. Farmers don't have to pay property tax. If I got farmland, I don't pay property tax. And so that's about another $3,000. And that's why I got the $8,000 check this year from the government on my taxes. But, but these okay, so but that's the long story short. And what I mean by deducting my investments on my income is that, let's say I start an LLC. I start an LLC and I got a farm, and I go and I buy assets for the LLC. I buy cattle. Let's say I buy $12,000 worth of cattle. If I buy $12,000 worth of cattle, my $40,000 of income a year drops to $28,000 because I've deducted the cost of the investments on my income. And so I only have to pay taxes on $28,000 of income instead of $40,000. So boom, immediately drop my tax bill by several thousand. I get a few $1,000s back from the government. And so, but here's the thing, okay? So when I look at the way that I set up my investments on my farm, the way I set them up was that I leveraged for these cattle, and then I deducted. So what I did was I went to a bank, right, and I took a loan for $25,000. The banker said, okay, if you want this $25,000, you're gonna have to pay me $100 a month. And so I said, okay. I signed the paperwork. They gave me the 25 grand. I used it, and then now I have to pay the bank $100 a month. And so for that $100 a month, the $1,200 a year, I was able to purchase all of these cattle, and I was able to write off $12,000 on my taxes. And so for $1,200 a year, I was able to write off $12,000. And so I didn't use all $25,000. I used I think I'm about $17,000 right now in debt. And so but I did use a good chunk of it, and then I paid some of it back with the money that I got on my tax refund. And so, I took leverage from the bank. Hey, quit pushing me. Come on. I took leverage from the bank. I paid the banker, and then I wrote the investments off on my taxes. And so that's the long story short of how I did it. You know, I went to the bank, I asked for money. They said, okay, we'll give you the money. I asked for 25 grand. They said, okay, we'll give you the 25 grand, but you're gonna have to pay me $100 a month. I said, okay. I signed the paperwork, I took the money, and then I bought the cattle. I started an LLC, and then I wrote the I took the cattle off on my income taxes. And so the government sent me my income tax money back. And so, you know, okay, but you know, all of this, it sounds like a good idea, right? But the reality of the situation is, if someone tried to do what I did, a lot of people would just lose everything because they don't understand how difficult this is. You know, I can talk about, you know, going to the bank and taking $25,000 for $100 a month. But, you know, that $25,000 at the end of the day, that $100 a month, it's going to be principal plus interest. You know, I got 0% interest on it for 1 year. But after 1 year, it's going to turn into 25% interest. And so, okay, here's the reality of the situation, right? Let's say I take an investment and I say, hey man, I want to write off $25,000, so I'm going to go and take this loan from the bank. I go and I take a $25,000 loan from the bank, I write it off on my taxes, and I sit there, you know, happy as can be because the government sent me a $5,000 check because I got to write off my income taxes. But the thing is like, you know, a lot of people, they don't get to see the immense difficulty of running cattle when they watch me do this, because I'm extremely good at it. When people watch me, they get to watch the best of the best. And so when the average person goes and runs cattle, you could end up losing half your animals. You could end up growing nothing for grass. I mean, you could end up in a horrible situation, and you could end up losing all your money. And here's the thing, is that if somebody goes and they take a 25, you know, I've been doing this for about 15 years. And so, you know, if somebody is looking to get the results that I'm getting, they got to put in the work that I put in. And so, you know, this whole thing, this whole situation, I was real good at growing grass, you know, before I got into cattle. And that's why I'm saying it's important to learn how to grow the grass before running the cattle, you know, because running the cattle, it's one aspect of it, but growing the grass is honestly more important. And you know, but if I'm going to be in the stock or cattle business, you know, running cattle, you know, you could go work at a rodeo, you could go work at a sale barn or work a sale barn, or you could be a lot buyer, you can put animals together for people. But in terms of running cattle profitably, you gotta have to be, I mean, I'm not gonna say you have to, because I'm sure there are other ways to succeed at this, but growing grass was what was more important. And so, you know, the reality of the situation about all this, okay, because I know that there's a whole segment of America that just lives in this pity party where they just feel bad for themselves all the time, and they say, oh my God, everything's impossible and nobody should succeed unless I succeed. This whole thing about running cattle is that someone could take a $25,000 investment, right? Someone takes a $25,000 investment, they go and buy cattle, they lose half of their animals, they put a bunch of feed into them. Now they've lost all of the bank's money. That $25,000 was not worth it then. You know, like me, when I put in a $25,000 investment and I get my $5,000 back from the government, getting the $5,000 back from the government was not worth losing $25,000 and then having to pay interest on it. It was not worth it. The only time the investment is worth it is if the investment is sound and the investment goes, it goes okay, you know, because, you know, there are plenty of people who will take loans from the bank and they'll lose everything. They'll lose the banker's money, they'll owe the bank money for their entire life, and then they'll sit there broke their entire life. And, you know, because even if you lose the banker's money, you have to pay them back. And so, you know, it's not worth getting the $25,000 of tax write-off to get a $5,000 check. It's not worth it if you're going to lose all of the banker's money, because if you lose the banker's money, you're still going to have to pay them back. So that's the reality of the situation. You know, that it just is what it is. And so, you know, I mean, You know, my primary focus before I ever even start running stocker cattle would be learn how to grow grass. Because if I can grow grass, grass is the cheapest, most cost efficient, best feed product for stocker cattle. Because you can gauge the amount of nutrition quality in the grass by letting it grow to a certain point, by altering the amount of fertilizer in it, etc., etc. And so, you know, there's, you know, but learning how to grow the grass and growing grass, it may sound easy, but it's not. And especially if you're going to run cattle on it, because if you run cattle on grass and the grass is too hot, the cattle will bloat on it. Like one of my neighbors had an animal die the other day, and I took a look at the animal as I was driving by it, and it had a big old gut on it, and it died because it got these animals. That animal probably got too much got too much protein in their system, and then it got to 105 degrees, and that animal dropped dead. But stuff like that can happen. A lot of people will lose a lot of animals if they try to run stocker cattle. And so, you know, I mean, it just is what it is. I mean, this ain't easy. And so, you know, I mean, it may not seem fair, but it ain't fair. Because I mean, I've been doing this for a long time, and if everyone got the outcome that I did after I put in all this effort to do this, that would be what's unfair. I've been doing this for almost 15 years, you know, and I do this every day, every single day. And so it just is what it is. But that's it for me today, YouTube. Y'all have a good one.